What's up, everyone? Welcome to Normal America Show. Your host, robnoerr. Great to be back. First off, after talking a big game about the importance of keeping schedules, last night I screwed the pooch already and was unable to stream. It was a work-related situation. It happens. So I was needed late into the evening, and what is the name of this? Wait a second. I'm going to be furious if this is titled wrong. No, we're good. All right. We good. Oh, 1 second, check something. But yeah, so I do apologize for that. I'm trying to be very consistent, but unfortunately, those Mondays and Tuesdays, it's just brutal. If work calls, there's just nothing I could do. What else can I do? So I know my audience understands, but I am really trying to be consistent. I had a great day. It's always great. I'm sure at this point, if you're watching, you probably know. I do block shifts, so I go into work Sunday evening, and then I'm there until at least Wednesday afternoon, sometimes Thursday evening. And so it's always nice to get back on Wednesday, done with work, and get to hang out with the family. So we had a good night, went out for a date night. My son he was quite the ham today. We went out to a restaurant, and he was a ham. Was just chatting up all the waiters and waitresses and the other people that were eating. He was really funny. And then we went grocery shopping. But man, I mean, some of the produce we got, the prices on like eggs and lettuce, out of control. Just craziness, just absolute craziness. Some of the prices. I think I spent $280 on groceries, the same type of groceries that we would have got, 2 years ago. Now, granted, it's a little different because we have Hank, but he ain't eating that much. Hey, thanks, McClinebecker. I appreciate the sub. And we weren't getting diapers or anything like that. It was strictly just food. $280. I mean, and for my credit, I even got the generic coffee creamer and saved $1 instead of getting the Coffee Mate creamer. So Frank is inheriting the gift of gab. What you mean? Let's be frank. So, first off, thanks to the people that are here. McLinebacker, Computer Carnage, Roland Stott, Admirals. Really appreciate Alley Cat, Jordan Fargo, Creas. And shout out to everyone who hasn't been talking about. Really appreciate it. So what's the plan this evening and tomorrow evening? So tomorrow evening, if all goes according to plan, I want to talk about what I think is the biggest story in the country right now, and that's the Twitter files. And my plan is to literally go through them all. So tweet by tweet, file by file, to go through from the beginning until what we have released up until tomorrow. So I won't be covering much of that. There's a lot of revelations, like, for example, the drops yesterday were all about sort of how the FBI was getting involved, how they got their foot in the door. We learned that Adam Schiff was directly trying to get Paul Sperry, a journalist, booted off these platforms. So that's the plan. So I'm excited for that. I've read through all of them, but you have to understand this. My reading through most of them are like literally when I got 5 minutes at work and I'm scrolling through on my phone here. So it'll be nice to just go through them and get my thoughts on those because oftentimes listening to someone else commentate on something is different than reading it for yourself. So we'll read through that together. So yeah, it should be Rumble only candidate show. Friday will be Drunken Debates. That'll be at 8:30 Eastern time. That will not be on Twitch. So I know most of the people that watch me are watching on Twitch. It will not be on Twitch. My co-host for Drunken Debates is John Burke. John Burke is banned from Twitch. So any material I do with John Burke, Drunken Debates, and then in the future I will have a Saturday show with John Burke. sort of a weekly roundup show. That's going to be Rumble Comfy exclusive. So tonight, if you're in the channel or in the chat and you want to remind people, Friday night, you're not going to see me on Twitch. It's going to be on Rumble. I don't know who all the guests are so far. It's me. John Burke will be moderating day one. I will be debating. The only people I know that are definitely on are Dylan Burns and Sonsel will be on the panel. Sonsel also banned from Twitch. So just let me, it'll be better. Everything is going to be a better experience on Rumble, on comfy.stream. It's just, there's certain things you can't say on Twitch. Also, next Monday, I do believe, I haven't decided, but my platform is going to be Monday, looking back at old videos of mine and commentating. This Monday was a really good one. If you missed that show, you missed out. I went back and reviewed a debate I had a year and a half ago with Chud Logic about censorship of conservatives on social media. It seemed to be really relevant to the news that's breaking. So that was a good show Monday. I think it was interesting. Next Monday, or Tuesdays are going to be debate reviews, I think. Then Wednesdays, Thursdays, normal show. Fridays, Drunken's Debate. Next Monday, I believe I will start reviewing some of my debates I had with Destiny, who is banned from Twitch, which means I will not be able to stream those to Twitch. So you're going to have to follow me on Rumble or follow me on comfy.stream if you want to get that content, because it's just half the time interacting with people at this point. I mean, think of how ludicrous the rule is. If I do a panel, like, for example, let's say John Burke and me are hosting Drunken Debates. Let's say Dylan Burns agreed to do Drunken Debates, and he's streaming like he always does and has no idea that John Burke's banned from Twitch. Now Dylan gets banned from Twitch, who had no idea. He was just streaming his normal content, was on a panel. That's how absurd it is. So that's how careful you have to be on places like Twitch. It's inevitable that I will be kicked off. So Drunken Debates is the XFL of debate streams. It's a good comparison. Hopefully it'll be better than that this time. But no, Burns didn't get banned, but I'm saying because Sonsel's banned from Twitch, and because John Burke's banned from Twitch, if Dylan does Friday's Drunken Debate show and streams it, he will be banned from Twitch. So, it's just, it is what it is. So, consider following me on Rumble or comfy.stream. Yeah, Sonsel's banned. I'll have to talk to him specifically why he got banned, but it was trans issues. It started off with him saying there is no trans genocide occurring, and then the trans, the trans people that are want to get everyone banned that doesn't follow the line with them somehow got him banned. So I can't do any content with Sonsel on Twitch. So, but we're trying to get bigger streamers. I've reached out to bigger streamers to do Drunken Debates. I don't know how good it is me reaching out to them. Because most of those bigger streamers, let's be honest, I know it sounds arrogant, they don't want to debate me. Because they know it'll happen. So, it is what it is. That's what you could say what you want about people like Dylan Burns, people like Pisco. They're game to talk to me. They are. And so I appreciate that. I do. Your Destinies, your Voshes, those type of people don't want to talk to me. The bigger streamers. So, anywho, that's sort of the game plan. Tonight, we're going to jump into the show here. Stalled enough. We're 5 minutes past the official start time here. We're going to talk about a hodgepodge of things. The two main things will be Mr. Hamlin. What's his first name? I always forget. I think it's Damar Hamlin, the Bills player that collapsed here the other day. I have a take that'll probably just make everyone mad. So we could talk about that. Or we could talk about the House Speaker vote. We will talk about both of them. And then there's other things to talk about. Yeah, I saw that video of Fetterman. Brutal. Fetterman being sworn in and just looking like he doesn't know where he's at. Pennsylvania, my state. Woo! We did it. We did it. Eric July would be fun. Yeah. I'm going to try to get some bigger people. I'm going to try to get some people on Drunken Debates. that aren't those type of people. I'm going to try to get like people from the academic world, people of that ilk. You know, like when I interview people like Phil Kerpen, or maybe people from the political world, like county commissioners and things like that. They don't, Phil Kerpen would destroy on one of those panels. Kerpen, you've seen me interview him several times. For my money, one of the best journalists out there covering COVID and other things. Kerpen, I actually knew through the debate community. He was a fantastic debater well before my time. And by the time I got there, he was a judge and a coach. But just like, if I don't consider, I know this is like, not to get too into this, but I honestly consider myself not to be an overly intelligent person. I think that I have a lot of common sense. I think that I'm good at seeing a picture. And I think probably my strongest suit is I'm able to keep up with people that are very smart, but also speak genuinely in a way that the average person could understand. But there are people that are just way more brilliant than me. And I've met many of them in the debate community as far as just like IQ level, specific knowledge on specific things. And Phil Kerpen's one of those guys for sure. I mean, he's a brilliant, brilliant guy. And there's a lot of them. There were a lot of them that were super left wing. I'm a pretty good talker, you know. Sometimes that harms you. Sometimes if you're over, like, I've had this experience. I don't know if you've ever had this. Have you ever had the experience of like you're talking to a doctor and the doctor just knows so much more about than, something than you, but they can't explain it to you. They're just up here. In the debate community was like that. I was an excellent debate coach for people just entering debate. I was okay for people at the highest level. I was a decent coach, but I wasn't great. There were coaches that were brilliant, but some of those brilliant coaches for coaching you at the highest level, they couldn't explain debate to people at an entry level. They couldn't do it. They were involved and specialized at the highest level for so long that they just couldn't do it. Like, picture it like this. Picture that you're like a quarterback coach for like Tom Brady for 10 years. You might not be a very good quarterback coach for a high school, some average high school quarterback, because you might not be able to, you might only be good with people that already have a precursor knowledge, so, but neither here nor there. So when I say, people all the time, they're like, you're really smart. Tell that to my wife. Like, I'm such an idiot in so many normal everyday things. And, I truly mean it. If you would have seen some of the people, I've told this story before, but when I made it to the national debate tournament, the biggest debate tournament in the country, you have to qualify for. And it's the top 72. I don't know if it still is. It used to be the top 72 teams that you had to qualify for, but each school is allowed to have 3 teams. So if you're like Harvard, you're going to have 3 teams. So actually there's probably only 30 to 40 schools that qualify for that tournament. The second round, I debated this Harvard team of these 2 freshmen, and we were discussing in the debate, I believe it was Aegis missile defense systems on our naval carriers. And I read a piece of evidence, which I knew very little. Oftentimes, you and your team would have cut evidence. I cut very little evidence. My team cut all the evidence. And it'd be cards. We still used paper cards back then. It would have a tagline. It would say an overview of what the card said, then the author and the date, and then you would read the card. But a lot of time, there's such a breadth. I mean, we had Rubbermaid totes, and you would have these, we called them accordions or expandos that were labeled that. So you might have something like, someone says missile defense. You had an accordion on that, and A through Z, you would label them what they. So you're in there getting evidence and stuff. And I read from this, book, this general or something. I read a piece of evidence from it, and the kid I was debating was like, well, actually, 3 pages later in the book, he says blah 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 blah. I happen to have the book in the tote, and I pulled it out, and he had it word for word, what this random book said. And after the round, I'm talking to him. I'm like, so like, how'd you do that? And he's like, I have a photographic memory. I could do that with tons of books, and this team, they had like perfect SAT scores. I think my SAT score, when it used to be out of 1600, I think my SAT was like a 1220 or a 1280 or something. These people had SAT, like perfect scores. I probably at the national debate tournament, the year I qualified, probably had amongst the lowest 5 SAT scores of everyone there. I mean, it's crazy. But some brilliant people. Yeah, my friend Tom, he was my debate partner. He's in here. He says also the ability to calm those people down, which long-term coaches say. Yeah, that's right. There is something of patience. If you're talking to someone at a very high level and they're not there with you, a lot of people find it difficult to either have the ability to talk in a way that a layperson can understand or the patience to do so. I mean, you could ask my friend Tom there. Tom generously, this is getting way out in the weeds. I promise I won't spend too much more time on this, but Tom generously gave up his eligibility as a debater to help coach our team. And so Tom was coaching a lot of entry-level people and was helping us cut evidence and things like that. And Tom and me could both tell you stories of people coming into debate, and you would be like, okay, this year the topic's about corn subsidies or different agricultural subsidies. And, so today we're going to be talking about politics of this. And if the plan would pass to lower corn subsidies, this would cause farmers to be very upset at the Republicans. And so this would mean, because the Republicans are in charge right now, that they would end up supporting the Democrats, and this would cause the Democrats to win in the next election, which would blow out the deficit, and that's bad. That would be an argument. And so you'd be talking to this and you'd be like, does anyone have any questions? And they would be like, what's Congress? What's the Republicans? I'm not lying. I had a debater once that thought that the president appointed all of Congress. I mean, and it's very easy to just be like, yeah, I have nothing to say to you. Like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. But, there is I don't know, a characteristic that you could have, which is just sort of a patience and a way to break things down. And I think that people like me and Tom were good at that because our background, we came from rural or suburban Pennsylvania. We weren't coming from, private schools. We just run-of-the-mill people. And so the people we knew outside of the debate community were average people. And so if you're at the bar and someone's like, what's up with this speaker vote? Can you explain that to me? If you're someone who's been involved in the Beltway for 30 years, you might have difficulty explaining to some guy who's like, yeah, I'm a farmer. Can you give me the Cliff Notes version of what's going on? It might be difficult. So, yes, Roland says, very few geniuses can dumb things down to a high school fresh level. Thank God I'm not a genius. So, when I worked at Burger King, I had people that didn't know how to use a broom, didn't know how to use a mop. It happens. But if you're a reasonable person, I would rather have someone who's willing to learn, who knows nothing, than someone that thinks they know a lot and they don't. Like that, the former person's better to me. They'll end up farther ahead. And I think that's something I tried to do. I acknowledged my deficits, and I think that helped me grow. Anyways, so we could talk about Hamlin, or we could talk about the House Speaker race. I think the House Speaker race stuff's more interesting, so I'm going to bury the lead. Let's talk about Damar Hamlin. So Monday, I was doing a review of a debate I had in June of 2021 with a lefty named Chud Logic on Are Conservatives Censored More on Social Media? And I reviewed that debate. And as it was going on, people were in my chat saying Monday Night Football was on. And they were like, did you see this Bills player collapse? Which I hadn't seen the play. So I didn't really have much to say other than, thoughts and prayers. Anytime someone goes down, I have seen the play since then. And so there's some things to talk about surrounding this. Now, on one hand, you might say with all of the things occurring in the world right now in the political landscape, an open border, this House Speaker business, the Twitter files dropping, and, the Ukraine situation, inflation, the economy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Why is this an important story? Well, it's important because it tangentially connects, and some of what we'll talk about COVID and medication surrounding COVID and things like that. So it's big in that, but it's also big in this. You will burn out if you just constantly talk about the same things over and over and over again. And so it's worth talking about some other things that are important culturally that people put importance on. So let's see. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Skip Bayless tweet. Hopefully I'll be able to find that. Let me bring that up. So I have a lot to say, and this is going to test my ability to explain things, because seemingly some of the things I'm going to say at a surface level seem contradictory about this. So I'm going to really try to put into words exactly how I'm feeling on this, because there's a lot to it. So we'll get to the Skip Bayless. The first thing is this. I don't know why Damar Hamlin had a cardiac arrest. I don't know. And neither do you. And neither does anyone on Twitch or YouTube or Twitter. They don't know. His doctors might not even know at this point. It is okay to speculate, but anyone claiming, I know the vaccine caused this, or I know the vaccine couldn't have caused this, are wrong. They're just wrong. We don't know. I don't even know if this guy took the vaccine. I don't know. He may have. If he did, that doesn't prove the vaccine caused it. I don't know if the guy had COVID. If he did, maybe long COVID caused it. I don't know. Now, people might say, well, he had to have the vaccine if he was playing in the NFL. I could be wrong. I don't follow these things too closely. My friend Tom's in here. He might know this better than me. Wasn't one of the things around Aaron Rodgers that he claimed to be vaccinated but then wasn't? I'll bet that happened an awful lot. I'll bet not just in professional sports, but certainly there. But elsewhere, people were like, yeah, I was vaccinated, and it wasn't. And the reason it would be more common in professional sports, and this is a bold claim on my point, I don't necessarily have evidence to back this up other than anecdotal evidence, but I bet this is true. If you go back and you look at sort of the steroid era in baseball, and let's not kid ourselves, there are performance enhancers that are still occurring in baseball, football, and pretty much all professional sports where there's huge amounts of money to be made. The stakes are so high, right, that it's just... They found doctors to write off on giving them performance enhancers. So is it beyond the realm of belief that you could find a doctor to say, yeah, they took the vaccine if they didn't? I don't know. Yeah, maybe it wasn't required. Maybe you were just able to get tested. The point is this. I have to be honest. Damar Hamlin played for Pitt. Pitt is the college football team I cheer for. I'll be honest. I've been wimpy with, in a good way, with not watching a lot of sports as closely as I used to. And the first sport that fell off for me was college football and basketball. I just always seemed busy on Saturdays, and I didn't watch much college football for the past 6-7 years. Maybe I'd watch the national championship games or the bowl games, but as far as Pitt games, I've probably in the past 5-6 years watched 10 Pitt games. So I vaguely recall Hamlin, but I can't claim to have known a lot about him. He seems like a wonderful guy. These things are always strange. When you see a really bad thing happen to someone, you look at their life, what you could see on the surface. And most of the time what you're going to see, people aren't going to be like, oh, he's a terrible person. But this guy genuinely, and of course appearances could be deceiving, but he genuinely seems like he was a good guy. His mom seems like the type of person that sacrificed a lot and worked a lot to enable her son to be in the position he was in to kind of achieve his dream. And it's sad, and there's part of me that's a horrible thing to think, but there's so many people that are professional athletes that seem like scummy people, that have been accused of beating their wives or, sexual indiscretions and things of that nature. And then, this guy just falls over. It just, I don't know. But that's life. It's never fair. The good always die young. Not saying that he's going to die. I hope not. But so I don't know. Upon watching the play, this is my layman take. I think it's shared by almost everyone. If you watch the hit, it was not a hit that you would even thought twice about watching. Like if you're me, you watch a football game and you'll see like someone get crushed and you're like, oh man, and your head kind of picks up. This wasn't that type of hit. This was like a routine tackle and his chest was hit. But it didn't seem, and it brought reminder to me as a Pittsburgh fan. There was a player for the Steelers named Ryan Shazier, who was a middle linebacker who looked like he was going to be really good. He was already really good, but he looked like he could have been special, like a perennial all-star Pro Bowler. And he had a tackle that looked basically routine and just collapsed, and he ended up breaking his neck and never played again. And it's a really good story in the sense that he persevered. At first they were like, will this man ever walk again? He's now walking. He does a lot of charity work. He's kind of still a relevant voice here in Pittsburgh. But it was weird because the thing that I remember, because I was watching that game live, was it wasn't like one of these crushing hits. It looked like a routine play, and that's the way this was. Can someone help me? I don't have this pulled up in front of me. One of the explanations that you see is there's this condition. It's very rare, but it's like your heart has this. This is my layman's understanding of this, that people are saying might be the cause of Hamlin's cardiac arrest, which is your heart has this rhythm, but if there is blunt force, even a light amount, that's it, comorbiditis. Even if a moderate amount of force, it doesn't have to be a huge amount of force, is applied to your chest at the exact wrong time. Thank you, Gizmo. Thank you for the cheer. I really appreciate it. It could cause. My understanding of it was like it's very similar to the AEDs, like the electric shock pads. The way those work is it kind of for my layman language, kind of shocks or freaks your heart back into a regular rhythm. It's like, yeah, we're supposed to be doing this. Like the opposite of that. Like that impact at just the wrong time kind of screws it up and it stops pumping, basically. But the one and it could be that. I'm not saying it's not. I don't know. I've seen people say, doctors I've seen saying, yeah, but if you watch closely, if that happened, you would expect him to basically immediately collapse. But what happens is this hit occurs, and then he stands up, and he's like, like you do. He's like, come on, let's go, guys. And then he collapses. But it still could be the comorbiditis or whatever. People say they've seen the same thing when airbags deploy. That could very well be the explanation. Does that mean, let's say that's what it was. Does that mean the vaccine didn't exacerbate it? No, it doesn't mean that. If he was vaccinated, does that mean that, that's definitely why the vaccine exacerbated? No, it doesn't mean that. I don't know. And the truth is, we'll probably never know. Like, let's just say that we, could objectively, 1,000 years in the future, and somehow there's technology to look into the past and get absolute factual answers on these things, or, God or aliens or something. You could objectively know, the vax helped cause this, but how would you ever know that? I don't know how you would prove it. You might say, well, we've looked at these studies that show vaccines cause these conditions to occur more and more athletes are falling over. But that doesn't mean every athlete that falls over, it was because of the vaccine. It doesn't. Even if it comes out tomorrow and Pfizer admits, yes, absolutely, no doubt, our vaccine has been the cause of some of these cardiac arrests for professional athletes. That still doesn't prove in this case. It doesn't. But that's the point. The conversation surrounding the vax isn't about this individual. I understand why people want to make it about that, because it's a visual that's striking that millions of people saw that's incredibly powerful and horrible. But you just don't know. And it's one of the things that troubled me was seeing people that are just absolutely certain, yep, it was the vax. Or nope, it couldn't have been the vax. How the hell do you know? You know, I knew a person that had a very serious medical condition, very serious. And a good friend of that person kept telling me it was drugs. That's what was causing it. And the condition was such that it was problems with the brain. It was seizure related. Could have been drugs, but maybe not. But that person was convinced. Now, I'm sure taking at least illicit materials doesn't help that. But it's like, if you stop, would the seizure stop? I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. Now, this brings me to the next point, and people aren't going to like to hear this. There is something tribal and innate in all of us. And it's something that I'm not claiming that I'm better than other people. I've really tried to limit this. I'll just ask the audience, what do you think one of the first thoughts are that crosses many politically active people's minds when they hear there's a mass shooter? All of a sudden, it's blaring everywhere. It's all over Twitter. It's all over YouTube. Was he white? That's kind of what I'm getting at. Is he on our side? Yeah, that's basically it. No, people obviously, most people think that's a tragedy. It's terrible. But one of the first thoughts that comes like, well, is this guy on our side? I bet it was Antifa. I bet it was a Trump supporter. I bet it was a Black Lives Matter guy. Gun control. Right. People make it, though, about the issue that they want. And we do it. I do it too. I can't speak for everyone else. But certainly you see this a lot. I remember, hearing about the Charlie Hebdo shooting. And if you remember that was a satirical paper that had, placed pictures of Muhammad, and then Islamic fundamentalists went in and shot it up. And I remember thinking, like, instantly, as soon as I heard it, was like, I bet this was over free speech. And, what if it wasn't? What if it was what if it was some atheist, some Christian, That sort of thing's happening with people dying now surrounding the COVID discussion. It obviously started and was worse with people that were making fun of those dying that didn't have the vaccine. The Herman Cain Awards, remember that? And the other thing that makes it worse from that side is that side actually has power. So that side, which is sort of towing the establishment line, well, the establishment had the power to force mandates on you, had the power to force lockdowns on you, had the power to force censorship on you. And so that makes it infinitely worse. One of the greatest, shameful, horrible things that has occurred in my lifetime was the gleefulness in wanting the total destruction of people that questioned the forcing of medication into their body. That happened. In some levels, it's still happening. I am not equivocating that with the Hamlin situation. I'm saying, though, that in the same vein, and I know this is going to piss some people off, I can't prove it. I can't. And no one will ever admit to this. But there's almost a gleeful tone to some of the people, not all of them, but to some of the people that are like, yeah, it's the vaccine. Told you. Oh boy, shouldn't have took that vaccine. And that rubs me the wrong way. I can't prove it. There are certainly people that are like, it was the vaccine that aren't doing that. But there's a lot that are. And that sucks. The guy's fighting for his life. Yeah, Sean Penn said of jail unvaccinated. Yep. I mean, they're terrible. The guy's fighting for his life. I don't know. Like, I don't have access to any data of this guy's personal health records, of the health information from when he's on the field, of the health information from when he's on the hospital, and none of us do. None of us. And so the people that, like, absolute certainty on both sides saying it was the vaccine or it wasn't the vaccine, I just am like, hold your horses. I don't have a problem questioning, look, it seems the data seems to suggest far more young, healthy people are falling over dead from cardiac arrest and heart issues. I don't have a problem with that. And look, we should look in. Is that a possibility here? The NFL was strongly pushing vaccines. Is that a possibility? Maybe. But just the certitude that people had, I didn't like it. I just didn't. And, you know, now this is going to sound contradictory to what I have to say in a couple minutes. But that's how I felt. You didn't see me saying, it was the vax. You didn't see that shit from me. I don't know. And I've been one of the most vocal people against vaccine mandates, both through the government and I think that a lot of businesses, including places like the NFL, the NBA, other places, strongly attempted to force their employees to take medications, many times against their will, like Kyrie Irving. Cole Beasley on the Bills, I believe, was another one that questioned this. But having said that, that doesn't prove the vaccine caused this. If you're one of the people that are certain it was the vaccine, and not saying it probably was or there's significant questions, that's fine. But if you're certain it was the vaccine, and his family comes out tomorrow and says this dude never took the vaccine, how much of an idiot are you going to look? Oh, well, moving on. It's not good. All of us tend to overstate things at times. I do it myself. Thank you, Mojo. I really appreciate the follow. We all do. But that's a level of certitude that, I just think, while a guy's fighting for his life, it's not something I'm doing. So, thanks, Khalil. You might think I'm a piece of shit after what I say next. I feel terrible for the guy. I feel terrible for his family. I really do. He seems like a very decent guy. A lot of people, kind of understood that this guy's life's more important than that particular game. A lot of people were donating to a charity. He started that's great. Just to give an update on his condition, the last I read earlier today, they have him stable, but he's still in critical condition. My understanding, I'm just getting random sources, but it makes sense to me. What I'm hearing is the concern's going to be his brain. Not that the brain caused this, but because they performed CPR for 9 minutes, there's a question how much blood and oxygen flow was getting to the brain. And a lot of times people, lose some of that function if they are required to have CPR for that one, or lung function and things like that. It sounds like the heart's going. Now, my understanding is he's unconscious, but that's intentional because you want to intubate and keep someone unconscious during this sort of initial recovery period. But anything could happen. Chris Pronger was a hockey player who had the comorbiditis. A hockey puck hit him in the chest and he went down. But the CPR revival of him was like 20, 30 seconds, if he even had it. I can't remember. He was back to playing in a month or so. I would be shocked if that's the case with Mr. Hamlin, but I have no problem wishing for that and praying for that. I think it would be one of the greatest sort of inspirational human stories we've seen in a long time out of our mainstream culture if this guy's able to get back on the field. But at this point, what's most important is just hopefully he pulls through with as limited as possible, medical issues. I hope that for him and his family. Now, having said all that, there's another angle to this that I want to talk about, and it starts with sort of this Skip Bayless tweet. So let me find the tweet. And, so right now there's probably a lot of like lefties that would watch me, and not just lefties, but probably some lefties that would watch me and say, yay, good work, Rob. Good work. Okay. But now I'm probably going to make them mad. See if I can find this tweet. It's funny. You search something like this and it's like you see all the reactions to the tweet. It's like, I just want to see the tweet. There we go. So let me explain who Skip Bayless is. Are you tired of debate bros, which maybe I'm considered one of on Twitch and on YouTube? Well, many moons ago, debate broing became real big in the sports media landscape. And so, shows like Pardon the Interruption, where you had Wilbon and Kornheiser going back and forth, and then you had Around the Horn. Well, one of the shows that came out, what was it called? First Take, that was on ESPN. And it was Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless. And basically they'd just be like, who's going to win this next game? Dak Prescott's the best quarterback ever. Nah, he's shit. It's just debating random issues. Like, that was the whole point. And that platform took off and other shows like that came out. Now Skip Bayless is on Fox Sports 1. I think he's with Shannon Sharp. I don't like Skip Bayless at all. I always felt like Skip was sort of, like the bad guy wrestler that, a lot of the takes he had were intended to be like, oh, just controversial for controversy's sake, I just didn't like him. I didn't care for him. Cold Pizza, that's where it started. You're right, Guns Blazing. That was an old show on ESPN. I actually enjoyed. That was back before ESPN was super woke. I watched. What is this garbage? There we go. So I'm not a simp for Skip Bayless. I don't like the guy. Having said that, the tweet that sort of kicked off, and it wasn't just this tweet and just Skip Bayless and people around, but it's sort of this general consensus of what you can and can't say, I think's very interesting. Right? So I'm going to show you this tweet. And this tweet is basically not just random people, but actual like former NFL players, other sports journalists have called for Skip Bayless to be fired and never be on Fox Sports 1 again. Then there was a blow up today, I believe, with Shannon Sharp, the co-host of Skip Bayless' show, again surrounding this tweet. Now you might be saying, well, what did Skip tweet? Did he tweet like, I don't care about Hamlin, the game must go on? No, it's not what he tweeted. He tweeted basically the opposite of that. But you could judge for your own eyes, so here we go. He says, no doubt the NFL is, this is as the situation's ongoing, and at this point, the game had been temporarily suspended, and they weren't sure if they were going to postpone it. And so Skip says, no doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of this game, but how? This late in the season, a game of this magnitude is crucial to the regular season outcome, which suddenly seems so irrelevant. Now, I have to be honest. I don't think that the first part of this tweet is that bad. But even if you did, even if you said, well, that's heartless. The guy still, his status is unknown. It's clear that he's having a terrible medical condition. That's heartless. Even if you do think that, the second part of the tweet it suddenly seems irrelevant. Especially in context with the rest of the tweets that Skip had around this point. It's basically him saying, these games are important, but none of that matters right now. It seems irrelevant because this poor man's fighting for his life. Yeah, Tom, yeah. No doubt the NFL, the guy's saying, like, look, it's going to be difficult for them. Obviously, they want to call the game, but how can you do that when, this game's an important one? But none of that seems to matter right now. I am baffled how anyone who's looking at this remotely objectively could be like, that's terrible. How? I work for a company, right? My company is a company that's got millions of dollars going in and out of it every year. Money coming from the state. My company works with people with developmental disabilities, particularly adults. It puts people in their own homes. So maybe you're an adult with autism. The idea is to give people as much independence as possible. So instead of being in a facility like a hospital or a long-term care facility, we offer people the chance to have their own homes and then have staff that come into those homes to assist them. And that's what my job is. I do block shifts. So there's basically 3 in my particular house, me and 2 other gentlemen. And I work Sunday through Wednesday. Then someone comes in and works Wednesday through Friday, and someone works Friday through Sunday. Right? What if next Monday I go into work and I have a heart attack? Do you think that there's a chance that my coworker who has to come in an emergency might say something like this? My God, I hope Rob's okay. And I had my daughter's birthday party tomorrow, which it seems irrelevant now, but what am I going to do about that? That's life. That's every job. Everything seems callous. How could you be talking about the schedule next week when Larry that runs the grill at Burger King here passed away? How could you talk about that? That's life. I don't know what else to say. Now, let me argue against myself. But Rob, the things you're talking about are on a personal level and about things that matter. Let me give you a better example. God forbid something happened to Joe Biden, right? Joe Biden gets a serious, collapses all of a sudden. There will be people that will be like, well, what's the chain of command? What happens now? Biden was supposed to sign this omnibus bill, but he didn't get a chance. Now what happens? Does that mean, you don't care that Biden... Of course not. Especially if you're saying none of that seems relevant at this point, which is exactly what Skip Bayless said. But you do question. Now, people might say, yeah, but the difference is, your personal situation with your work or, politics like the president, that affects people in a more serious way than a game. And football is just a game. Is it? I think it is. That's how I feel. But I'm not a diehard football fan. I'm not a regular Skip Bayless watcher. You see, me and most of the people watching here, there are probably very few diehard sports fans here that live and die, your season ticket holder. You might be a casual fan like me. If the NFL canceled their season today, right now, I'm not going to lose sleep. I'd be like, no. It's happened with baseball, with the strike. Sucks. I enjoy baseball season more than football season. I don't know if you could tell. But if it canceled, I'd be like, it sucks. Go find something else to listen to on the radio when I'm mowing the yard. That'd be it. Yeah, Tom, we'll get to that. The gamblers and what have. Yeah. So it's a huge business with money involved, but it's also a lot of people are invested heavily into this. You can't have your cake and eat it too. All of these people in the sports world and the sports media world that are like, how dare you talk about the company aspect of it, the business aspect, ask what happens next with the product. How dare you? A man's life's on the line. Okay. And you might say, well, it's just a game. But you all are being paid millions upon millions of dollars because so many people look at it as more than just a game. That doesn't mean you shouldn't call out when people are callous. Anyone that was like, get him off the field, come on, restart the game. That's shitty. But it's human nature if you care about this. If, for example, if you're a team that game decided whether or not you were going to make the playoffs, if you're a fan of that team or you're a player on that team or you're a coach or you're an owner or, you're an athletic trainer for that team, at some point it's human nature. It's going to cross your mind, well, what happens now? What's going on? Yeah, Tom says it took nearly 48 hours for any site to address how they were going to handle this. Now, I understand not knowing at 9:30 when Skip asked the question, but 2 days later, you should have a better answer than how dare you, he's fighting for your life. Exactly right. That's exactly right. And I'm here to tell you, you're not a shitty person if you had those questions pop into your mind, or if you tweeted them out, or if you told a coworker or a friend. That doesn't make you a terrible person. It does not. It wouldn't have made you a terrible person after 9/11 to go, does that mean, is baseball canceled? Is football canceled now? What's going to happen? It's probably not the top of your priority list when these horrible things happen. But it's human nature to worry about. I mean, I've talked to people at funerals whose parents have died. And they're crying. And you start to talk to them. And these mundane stuff starts to come up. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do next week. I'm supposed to go out of town for my job. And, I'm going to have to see what I could do. Like, of course, in that moment, it's like, who gives a shit? Who cares? Who cares about that? Your father just died. But that's how people's minds work. It doesn't mean that person saying that didn't care about their dad dying. If you're a truck driver and you collapse like this, do you think if your entire shipping company goes, well, that's it. We can't do anything for weeks until we find out this guy's fighting for his life. You think that's acceptable? Because this stuff happens all the time. Yes, there's a difference that this was so public because it's something that so many people watch. I'll get to that daily breakfast. But here's the other thing. I think there are an awful lot of people that are just bullshit virtue signaling over this. An awful lot of them. How dare Skip Bayless? How dare anyone talk about it's just a game. And how dare anyone talk? I don't think that's doing Mr. Hamlin any good. I don't. I think you doth protest too much. And you're trying to make it about you. That's what I think. Well, Tengo, the first thing that came to mind to me was, who used to be an avid wrestling fan, was when Owen Hart died at a pay-per-view. And the pay-per-view continued. Probably not the right decision. There are problems. The NFL, I don't know if this has been confirmed, but my understanding was the NFL was going to continue the game, and it basically was the two coaches that said no. If that's true, that's going to be real bad PR. Yeah, Tom says, I tried to watch a college basketball game last night and said it was 2 hours. Sports Center, only on that topic. Important topic, no doubt. Any updates, absolutely break into the game and tell us. But sports is supposed to be an escape. That's exactly right. That's what my issue has been with the Kaepernick stuff and all of that all along. And I know this isn't a huge take with a lot of people that are conservative, but I think the reason that most people, they might not say it, but the reason most people were pissed about the Kaepernick thing wasn't that they hated his message. I didn't like Kaepernick's message, let's be clear. But that, for me, it was, I'm watching the game to not think about this stuff. That's the whole point. It's entertainment. It's the same reason that I don't want like woke stuff in movies. Of course, there's movies that have messages, and that's okay. And there could be movies that have messages that are antithetical to every ideology that I have, and that's okay. But the problem is when it's like inundated in everything. I miss just like Stallone and Arnold action movies that were mindless. There wasn't some big philosophical point. It was just some bad guy did something, and Stallone and, Arnold, whichever one, are all roided out, looking like, superhuman men just beating the shit out of a bunch of terrorists. Great. Now, if that was every movie, you would be like, I'm tired of this. But that's what sports were to me. I know people who have some of the most... Okay, it's hard to say this. When you are from a town like mine, I grew up in a town called New Bethlehem. New Bethlehem's a rough place. I said, you remember when Trump said, why are we taking all these people from these shithole countries? And some Democrat leaked that. And, I remember saying at the time, like, I wish Trump would come through my town and call it a shithole town. Because it is. Because the first step to fixing something is to acknowledging there's a big problem. And, I love the town of New Bethlehem. I love the people there, but there's a lot of problems. People are poor. People are dirt poor. People abuse drugs an awful lot. People abuse alcohol. I did. It sucks the life out of you. I had a good friend of mine that told me, like, he was constantly telling me, get the hell out of that town. Just get out. Get out. I bartended there. There were people that would come in there that worked. They'd get up at 7. They'd work some brutal construction job. Roofing or, road work and stuff like that. Barely made any money. Didn't have the best health. Would come into the bar. And some of these people whose lives you would look at and be like, oh, it just looks brutal. Maybe they're divorced and their kids didn't talk to them anymore. You know what they loved? Coming in on Sunday and watching football all day. And arguing with their friends or celebrating with their friends that were there about football or baseball or hockey. It might not seem important. It's not important to me now. It's not. I have a kid. Sports, I was way more into sports when I was younger. I'm just not much anymore. But some people are. And that industry, the sports industry, the 24/7 sports media industry, the athletes themselves, the owners, the people that make memorabilia and clothing and, jerseys and all that stuff, billions upon billions of dollars in this whole ecosystem because people passionately love these games. And so to shit on those people for being like, well, what's going to happen is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Again, it's different than if it's just some callous guy at the Bills game saying, get this guy off the field, come on. That's different. But that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what Skip Bayless said. And again, for the record, I don't like Skip Bayless at all. But it is absurd. What if you had a bunch of money placed on the game? You bet $10,000 on the outcome of that game, like who wins or the over-under or the spread or whatever. You had a parlay, and that was the last leg of it, and you're talking at $10,000. You don't think that person's thinking, okay, if they're not playing the game, what happens? Did I get my money back? Did I win? Did I lose? That doesn't make you a terrible person. It doesn't. I am in a fantasy football league with my wife and a lot of my close friends. Even in that league and the text we have with each other, no one wanted to say, well, what happens? No one wanted to say it. None of us in the league are die hard. It's not that there's huge money. I think it's like, $20 just to keep the league going or something like that. But it's not a huge amount of money or anything. But I know that people were like, one of the thoughts that crossed people's mind Monday night of probably everyone in that league was like, I wonder what happens. It wasn't a huge deal, but that doesn't make you a terrible person. But you're afraid to say that. You have to self-censor because you're afraid, if I say that, even amongst friends, someone will be like, wow, a little early for that, right? I don't know. It just seems to me like that there's this virtue signaling like, I know what I'm supposed to say, so I have to say it. No one cares about it. It's just a game. No one cares. That part of it, who cares? We're not going to focus on that. This man's fighting for his life, and that's that. Okay. Now, it's easy for me to say that because my entire existence publicly shows that I don't really care. I don't watch the games much anymore. I probably watched 4 Steeler games this year. And other than that, maybe a half of football randomly, everything collected. Yeah, free fantasy football, yeah. I always just consider it a donut. I'm terrible at fantasy football anyways. I play fantasy football for one reason. It's fun to keep in contact with a bunch of friends that otherwise you lose contact with. That's it. So you can trash talk. I'm going to crush you this week. And I know my wife might be listening. Hopefully no one else from my fantasy league's listening. I actually enjoy losing more than winning because I like making excuses. To me, that's my entertainment, So it's like, in my league, I think that the way it worked was you had to be in the top 6 to make the playoffs. Something like that, 6. And I was the first person out. So I was middle of the road for my league. But I was not in the playoffs. So I was in the consolation playoffs, and I lost the first game there. So I was out. There's no chance of me winning the league. But nonetheless, now that we're, days away, I was like, well, the game wasn't played. So therefore, the league is null and void this year. I want my money back. It's $20. I don't really care about the money. But it's just, to me, it's like, that's what I do. I just complain. Every year that I don't take first place, I'll be like, 9th place. That's the hardest place. Go ahead and try to take 9th place next year. You can't do it. Anybody could be the best. Anybody could take first. But try to take 9th, Yeah, Vita, that's the other point. Skip Bayless is a sports journalist. Imagine where this goes then, right? Imagine. 2 years later, Damar Hamlin, full recovery, God willing, playing football, hopefully, making the Pro Bowl. That would fantastic. I'm rooting for that. And so this story's escaped people's mind, and we're in the heat of a playoff race in the NFL. And it turns out a lineman from the Miami Dolphins, 87 team passes away tragically. He was hit by a drunk driver last night. Imagine that Skip Bayless and ESPN and every sports journalist goes, well, we can't even cover the games today. We can't cover them. It seems irrelevant at this point. A person from our family, an athlete from the NFL, has passed away. That's it. We can't cover sports. Puts things into perspective. This is just a game. How long are you willing to run with the "it's just a game" mantra? That's fine. If that's what you want to run with, that's fine. Maybe people will start to take you seriously and say, yeah, you're right. It is just a game. I'm going to stop spending my hard-earned money on just a game. I'll stop getting the season tickets. I'll stop getting the cable package. I'll stop tuning into ESPN. After all, it's just a game. There's more important things out there. The border's more important. People are dying of all sorts of illnesses. People are struggling to buy groceries. And football's just a game. So let's not spend... Now they'd say, no, wait. Yeah, Tom, you're absolutely right. What made this a big story was the way in which it happened. It wouldn't have been a big story if he got really hit hard. It would still be a story, but the way in which it happened was so freakish, And it wasn't like a neck injury or something. Something like that would be a big story, but not as big as this. And it's the NFL. Millions, like it or hate it, millions of people are watching. And it's Monday Night Football, which means it's the only game on at that point. So all of it added up that there was just a ton of interest and eyeballs on it. And then the way the situation played out, and it's, CPR for 9 minutes, that's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. There's so many conversations that I had already said with my wife. Hank, I played football. I love football. I loved playing football growing up. It was my favorite sport. Played it from Pee-wee midget football all the way up into varsity senior. Thought about playing football when I went to college. When I went to Clarion University, I went to a meeting that a bunch of people went to about incoming freshmen that considered being walk-ons at my little state school's football team. And one of the people that were in the room with me, I went to one meeting ever, was a man by the name of Reggie Wells. Reggie Wells was a lineman that played for Clarion University. He was drafted by the Arizona Cardinals and had a pretty successful NFL career. And so imagine little old stumpy me looking at this guy who's just, a mammoth of a strong man. It's like, yeah, maybe I'll do debate. I don't think football's right for me. But I'd already talked. I don't want Hank to play football. I didn't. I'd already talked about it. But how many parents now are looking and seeing, even if I, train my kid to tackle right and to protect his head and he has the right equipment, all that, something freakish like this could occur. Now, you might be saying, but maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was because of this guy's prior medical history. Maybe he had a weak aorta. Maybe he was a drug abuser. Maybe he took the vaccine that caused it. Maybe it was because, he had an injury previously and the doctors warned him. Who knows? I have no clue what this guy's situation, but I'll tell you this, the freakish nature of what happened, that it was basically a light hit that caused it, that's going to scare a lot of people. Like, I don't want my kid playing football. I don't want that. Are you kidding? On any given routine play, they could just keel over. Maybe that's not fair. Maybe you'd say, yeah, but that's life. They could keel over behind the wheel of the car when they get their driver's license. You're not going to leave them drive? So. I bet, and here's the other thing. Hot Spring says the vax are catching on. Again, we have no proof that the vaccine caused this. But I will guarantee that there are an awful lot of people that are vaccinated that are worried. Just like there were probably people that weren't vaccinated that were worried when they got COVID and they weren't vaccinated. Like, oh shit. It doesn't even matter what direction the science is going. It doesn't matter. All you know is that the government basically strongly tried to force you to take the vaccine, and maybe you felt compelled, okay, I'll take it, but it's not that big of a deal. And now you've seen those people that you were told to trust be wrong over and over again. And publicly, now we know we're attempting to censor people that were questioning them. And now you see, and you might say, if you're on the left, you might say, well, the stats are bullshit and, blah, 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 blah. Maybe, but it's out there. Yeah, after Chuck, I was talking about the Owen Hart stuff. But I think that there were a lot, I think you saw it in the NBA, Cole Beasley in the NFL, but with Kyrie Irving that sat out games because he's like, I ain't getting vaccinated. I'll bet there's a lot of players that were like, screw this. And it really, for them, even on the onset, any cursory look was like, it seems like forcing these people to take the vaccine was a bad decision, the forcing of it, because they were amongst the least likely people in the world to have a serious bad case of COVID because they are amongst the youngest, healthiest people out there. I mean, to be a professional athlete, barring some exceptions, like you could be Bartolo Colon, just a big fat guy pitching, or a lineman that's, heavy. They're still athletes and fit way beyond what I am, but you know what I mean. But like, imagine being Kyrie Irving or Cole Beasley. I mean, these are people at the pinnacle of human fitness, athletes at the highest caliber. And we see that COVID was basically, in the United States, for example, more than half the deaths that occurred of COVID are people over the age of 75. The average person that dies of COVID is beyond the average life expectancy. I think the average life expectancy in the United States is like 78. The average person dying of COVID is like 78.2 years old. The younger people that tend to be dying are people that have comorbidities or they're obese. That doesn't mean that if you're Kyrie Irving, you couldn't get COVID and have a serious case. But statistically, your chances were very slim. And so and by the way, you're probably at that point, I don't know this, but I don't think this is a big reach to say, if you're an athlete of that caliber, you're probably very serious and conscientious about what you're putting into your body. Now, I know probably a lot of them drink and smoke weed and stuff like that. But as far as like performance type stuff, and so you might be hesitant to be like, I don't know. What do I really know about this? I'm going to choose not to take this vaccine. I'm not saying that was the right or the wrong choice at the time. I'm just saying I would understand that. I understand that for myself. So of course I would understand it for people more fit than me. So, I don't know. I just think that, it's fine to speculate. Could the vaccine have been the cause? Yeah. Do we need more information? Absolutely. Should we be skeptical of anything that the government and people in positions of power are telling us we can't talk about? Yes. Am I going to listen to the people, that demanded to know my vaccinated status before I went grocery shopping or got in an airplane, tell me that it's unfair and we need to respect people's privacy as to regards if they had the vaccine, if they get ill? No, I don't care what those people think. Screw them. Do I care what people that celebrated the deaths of people that were unvaccinated think? No, they're ghouls. I don't care what they think. But if I'm being fair, I think the people that came out and said, yep, this was absolutely the vaccine, don't have proof of that. They don't. The people that came out and said this absolutely had nothing to do with the vaccine, they don't have proof of that. I don't know. And I think that some people are giddy to blame, their political opponents, and that sucks. And I think there's an awful lot of people that are sort of using the situation to virtue signaling and get sort of, pats on the back. And that sucks. It's okay to ask what the implications going forward for the NFL would be. It's okay. Life goes on. I hope Mr. Hamlin makes a full recovery. Now, when I said there's a potential contradiction, it's like, well, Rob, you're saying it's okay to ask how the football season went, but, you're saying that you wouldn't just come right out and say, well, the vaccine caused this, that's a bit much. Yeah, but there's a nuance there I hope people get. No, of course people don't want to debate it. It's difficult to talk about. The last thing I'll say on the topic is this. If I fall over tomorrow and I'm comatose, you guys could joke around. You guys could wonder what's going to happen with, my life or my show or your life. That's okay. It's absolutely fine. I hope that when I die, people still have a sense of humor and their lives still go on. I really do. I don't know what Mr. Hamlin thought. He seems like a really nice guy. He does. I hope he pulls through. But I think if we know deep down, we could lie publicly when we're talking to people, but we can't lie to ourselves. Life goes on. Even when close loved ones to you pass. Your parents, your siblings, God forbid your children. Life goes on. It's insane. I don't know how my life would go on if my wife or my son, something happened to them. I don't know what I would do, but it would. And so the fact that we all have to collectively pretend like everything needs to stop, we can't ask any questions, that's garbage. It just is. I hope I live forever too. Come on, nanobots. But that's it. That's all I have to say about Mr. Hamlin and that situation. So, was that too middle of the road for people? I hope not. That's honestly how I feel about it. That's right, Tom. We didn't get the good nanobots, so now we get the gray goo. All right, let's talk about the House Speaker stuff. So first off, I've been streaming for an hour and 20 minutes. Any updates? I assume they're not doing another vote tonight. But is there any update? Have they done another vote? First off, let me denigrate myself. Yeah, they were supposed to come back and start debate again at 8, but then they re-adjourned, right? Better have the right take. So the only person that I didn't do a video on this publicly, but a friend of mine, an old debate partner, reached out and was like, what do you think will happen with the House vote? And I said to them, I think McCarthy will have the votes. And he's like, oh, he already lost the first round. I was at work. I was like, huh? Oh. So bad take right out of the gate for Rob, if I'm being honest. I'll talk about what my predictions are, but first let me say this. I don't like Kevin McCarthy. I don't like Mitch McConnell. I don't like Lindsey Graham. I don't like Ronna McDaniel. Both sides doing call today, yeah. I don't care for them. Let me be clear. I vote Republican. The Republican Party aligns with me in theory more than the Democratic Party. But our system, through nepotism and corruption, has set itself up as such that third parties are almost non-viable. And after great contemplation, I feel that the chance to deal with the issues that I think are the most important to this country, those of corruption, are best accomplished via working within the two-party system. In other words, the chance of one of the two parties, people coming up from within that party and fighting corruption, are better than a third party getting positions of power and being able to do so. I think it is evident, as we'll talk about here, that the far better chance of the two parties is the Republican Party. The Democratic Party is lockstep, corrupt establishment garbage. They are 100% lockstep. The entire narrative coming out of the Democratic Party, which is just the face of the establishment. That doesn't mean there aren't Republicans that are part of it, as we'll talk about. But the Democrat Party is a lockstep. And the media and social media and corporate America and academia and the entertainment, all towing the same line. And they're out there talking about how this is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. That some Republicans are actually standing up for what they believe in. That's embarrassing. Don't they know that you're supposed to do it like the Democrats? And come out and say, like AOC, and come out and say, I won't support Nancy Pelosi and these establishment Democrats. And then go ahead and support them. Like Bernie and the rest of the squad. Don't they know that's how you do it? It's embarrassing. It's so embarrassing that there are some Republicans that are like, nah, I don't give a shit. The letter next to my name means less than what my convictions are for why I ran for office. It is embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the Democrats. Someone brings up Jimmy Dore. Absolutely. It's one of the first things I thought of. Jimmy Dore was excoriated by progressives like the Young Turks for the Force the Vote campaign. Now, I'm not an expert on this, and I didn't want Medicare for all. Let me be clear. And I'm certainly not a progressive like Jimmy Dore. But Jimmy Dore said, we elected a bunch of these sort of anti-establishment Democrats, and they were going to say, we're tired of the corporatist Democrat way of things. That's what the squad was about, and a bunch of these, the Bernie wing. That's what they were about. And so in 2018, before electing Nancy Pelosi Speaker of the House, why don't we force a vote on Medicare for all? Sure, it won't pass because Republicans won't support it, but let's force the vote and see how many Democrats are like, no, we'll vote against that because they're taking money from the pharmaceutical industry, etc. And all of a sudden, of course, the corporatist establishment wing of the Democratic Party is like, no, that's stupid. But so many of these progressives were like the Young Turks were like, no, that's stupid. It's stupid. Just vote for Pelosi. Just get behind her. And that's what happened. And then how did that Medicare for all work out? Did they put it up? No, they didn't, did they? Huh. It's almost like they sold a bill of goods. Just like when Republicans were like, we're going to repeal and replace Obamacare. Okay, in 2016, you had your chance. You had the presidency, the House, and the Senate. What did you do? Oh, right. We're going to take care of border security. What did you do? Right. Thanks, Hot Springs. Appreciate the follow. That's what's embarrassing. What's embarrassing for the establishment, for the Democrats, for the media, is that when it's such a, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. When people with convictions actually stand up. That's the embarrassing part. Thanks so much, Hot Springs, for the subscription. I really appreciate it. That's what's embarrassing. They ought to be embarrassed. Don't you know that you're just supposed to appoint the person that we said should be the speaker and just keep your mouth shut? That's how democracy works. Who cares? Who cares if the combined approval rating of the leaders of the Republican and the Democratic Party can barely broach 20%? No one likes McConnell. How many times did I debate someone on the left and I'd bring up Nancy Pelosi? And almost every time people would be like, well, no one really likes Pelosi. But we have to keep appointing her. Because it would be embarrassing if someone challenged her. If people said, no, we actually want to do what we promised. Listen, I would vote for someone who was pushing for things I didn't like Medicare for all. That was like, damn it, I promised that I was going to fight for that, and that's what I'm going to do. I respect that more than people that claim to be like, I'm going to be a fiscal conservative. And I say, good, that's what I'm about, fiscal conservatism. Sounds good. And then they get in office and go, but I'm going to vote for the omnibus bill. At least that first person's standing by their convictions, even if it's convictions that I don't agree with. I respect that. Of course I'd vote no for McCarthy. So that's the Democrats, right? But the Republicans, here's the truth. And I've said this I don't know how many times. You can't fight back unless you're on solid ground. When your back's against a wall, you could start pushing. If the people that have your back are really on the other side, you have no chance. One second. I believe this is a quote from Cicero. In like 50 BC. A nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gates is less formidable, for he is known and carries his banner openly. But the traitor moves amongst those within the gate freely. His sly whispers rustling through all the alleys, heard in every hall of government itself. For the traitor appears not a traitor. He speaks in accents familiar to his victims, and he wears their face in their arguments. He appeals to the baseness that lies deep in the hearts of all men. He rots the soul of the nation. He works secretly and unknown in night to undermine the pillars of the city. He infects the body politic so that it can no longer resist. A murderer is less to fear. The traitor is the plague. Now that's talking about a nation, but the same could be said of a political party. If you're a real progressive, that's tired of corporatist blah, blah, blah in the Democratic Party. The biggest blockade to you getting people you want in political power to pass the ideology that you want isn't Republicans. It's not Donald Trump. It's not Matt Gaetz. It's not Jim Jordan. It's not Mitch McConnell. It's Chuck Schumer. It's Nancy Pelosi. Those within your own party that will gatekeep you out of power are more responsible, more of a threat than you getting power than the other party. The same is true of the Republicans. The biggest threat to the Freedom Caucus isn't Joe Biden. It's Mitch McConnell. It's Kevin McCarthy. It's Paul Ryan. It's the Frank Luntz crew. That's the truth. And if we say, well, but this time, Biden's so scary, dude. Biden, oh my God, look what's happening under Biden. And now the Republicans won the House. And now this time, you just got to suck it up and vote for Kevin McCarthy, the establishment man again. You just vote for him, okay? We know that he sucked, in leadership of the Republican Party. They haven't done shit since he's been there. They haven't done anything except attack people that are the very people that someone like me would like Freedom Caucus people. But this time, we have to just pinch your nose this time. And then next time, we could do something. But this time, it's so important. Done with that. But Rob, maybe this is what's going to happen. Maybe then McCarthy and his allies go to Democrats and they give concessions to Democrats. Or maybe moderate Republicans end up supporting Hakeem Jeffries. Let them. Better to have the enemy within the gates out themselves. At least they'll be known then. As long as we play the perpetual game of, but we need more establishment Republicans, they need to be in power this time. Next time it'll be different, but this time, nothing ever changes. Nothing. That's right. Tom's like, if they do that, they have 2 years left and they'll never get elected again. Exactly. It's exactly what will happen. Let them. That's how I feel. We as principled conservatives, we're the real Republicans, and we just want to let you know that if you don't give in to what we want, we'll go work with the very people that we told you are destroying this country, the Democrats. We'll work with them then. And we'll capitulate to them instead of giving in to the things that you want. And what are the demands? Well, who knows what all of the demands are, but here's some things. Promises on border security, term limits, promises on a balanced budget. That's too far, says the fiscal conservative Kevin McCarthy. We can't promise to secure the border. We can't promise not to send trillions of dollars to whatever pet projects the Democrats and the establishment want. Sorry, we just can't promise that. Chip Roy, who comes out looking amazing on all this, Chip Roy's, he's not even making it about the actual characters like Kevin McCarthy. He's saying, I want things like the amendment process to be brought back on the House floor. We have not voted for an amendment since 2016. He's absolutely right. Absolutely right. To him, that's what democracy means. Good for him, standing on his principles. Good for Matt Gaetz. Good for Lauren Boebert. Good for the rest of them. Thanks, Big Blue. Appreciate it. But, who did I see? One of the Republicans came out and was like, we were supposed to vote on today to rescind those 87,000 IRS agents, but we can't do it because these crybabies in the Freedom Caucus. Great. Hopefully we don't have a speaker for 2 years then. How about that? Nothing gets passed. Sounds good. Probably better than Republican leadership coming in and saying, well, we have to pass this omnibus now. Maybe, how do we do this in the Senate too? Can we get them gridlocked? Sounds good. Toad says, I love seeing conservatives tear each other up. I'm a liberal, and these hardline conservatives refusing to budge means they're going to have to work with Democrats. I love it. And yeah, Democrats are going to love that. That's who the Democrats are. That's who so many of these so-called liberals are. You know, the liberals that are against free speech and stuff like that, bastardizing exactly what the term is. They love it. They don't care. You have to understand this. The lefties understand. They're good little lemmings. They don't go off the reservation. Oh, what's that? The CIA told us we have to support this war? We do it. We support it. Oh, what's that? The CIA said that we have to censor certain people? Yes, we agree with all that. Oh, what's that? Oh, we need to send money to massive corporation and pharmaceutical company. Yes, we're all for it. We're good. I love when other people disagree. Our side just happily goes along with whatever the biggest purse strings tells us to do. We love it. We used to be anti-war and pro-free speech, but now we realize the dangers of that. Can't we all just be a uniparty monolithic? Wouldn't that be great? I love that. I love when that happens. I'm a liberal. Yeah, great. We get it. We know who you are. Absolutely. Totally get it. Yes, that's what happens, like with the omnibus bill. Yep. That's what Mitch McConnell did. That's what the Republicans in the Senate did. Yes, they worked with the Democrats because their first and foremost agenda is to maintain their hegemony on power. And that's what most of the liberals, either knowingly or unknowingly, are cheering for. That's what they want. They don't give a shit about the average worker. They don't care. This guy right here that's saying he wants them to work, he doesn't care at all. He don't care about the average worker. Did the average worker make the right political decisions? Did he take the appropriate medication? If not, fuck him. Let him die in the street. He shouldn't be allowed to work. He shouldn't be allowed to commentate on social media. That's what they really think. That's who they are. We need to come together and totally agree on the same ideas always. Working together. I love that. I love that. Wouldn't that be great? You know what I would love? I would love some Democrats to have the nerve to do the same thing. You know, those progressives who I disagree with, but said these are the sort of things, we don't like the way the corporatist Democratic Party's going. We don't like that. So we're going to come into power beating some of the old guard Democrats, which is what people like the Squad did. We're going to come in and we're going to force our ideas because we represent millions of people. And they do. And I don't agree with them. I would love to see them stand on principle. Not because I want their ideas passed, not because I think it would help the Republican Party. It wouldn't. Not because it would push ideas but it would be refreshing to see politicians that cared about their constituents. That would be refreshing, even if it was in manners that I disagreed with. But instead, they go along like the good little lemmings they are, and you eat it up. Yeah, and that's another thing, Tom. The criticism would be more valid if the Republicans won the Senate. Then it's like, oh, well, now's our chance to go in. It's still BS because you think Mitch McConnell, they just passed the omnibus bill. But at least then the argument makes sense. But now it's like, what? Okay, so if we have a Republican-controlled House, they're going to stop the Biden agenda. Great. And if we don't have a House, because there's no one sworn in because there's no speaker, what's the difference exactly? Yeah, Scott Sperry standing against the... I mean, it's always, just leave us spend this 1 trillion omnibus. 1.7 trillion. Just this one. Then we'll be fiscally conservative next time. And so when Freedom Caucus people are like, well, that's one of the concessions we want. Balanced budgets. And we can't do that. Can't do it. Sorry. So like I said, the things I've heard that they wanted, here's 4 things that I've heard that people are talking about they want. Well, Chip Roy wants the amendment process brought back. And then the balanced budgets, term limits, was part of the conversation, border security. And then the other thing I heard, which allegedly I read reports that McCarthy caved on this. Think of how absurd this sounds. That Republican donations and money not be used in primaries that are open. What does that mean? Let's say my congressman, Glenn Thompson, retires. So I say, I'm running for Congress. And the other person that's running is basically an establishment Republican. It's, someone who was involved in Glenn Thompson's campaign, and he says, I'm going to run, and I support Mitch McConnell, and I support Kevin McCarthy, and, I support the war in Ukraine, and, all that stuff. And I would be, someone that would be like, no. Disband the FBI for starters, So what happens is Kevin McCarthy and Ronna McDaniel's Republican, the RNC, they'll send money to him and not me. And basically the Freedom Caucus people are like, we're tired of leadership that is taking money that in part we're raising for our party and attacking us with it. Yeah, I heard about the vote of no confidence thing. Now, having said that, if I was there, that wouldn't be my demands. My demands would be the fiscal conservatism. All that's good. All of the border security, all of it's good. My demands would be quite different, though. My number one demand would be this: immediate and transparent investigation into the FBI, the Democratic Party collusion with them, the media, etc. Immediate. Subpoenas sent to every top brass at the FBI. That would be my demand. I've heard people say this, a Frank Church type commission and investigations. That is the only issue that's important to me. But Rob, what about fiscal conservatism? Yes, fiscal conservatism is very important. And no matter what sort of concessions you get on it, it will never be achieved as long as the corruption continues. Trust me, if they say, yeah, we promise in 4 years we'll balance the budget. 4 years from now we'll be, dude, you're not going to believe this, but the craziest thing happened. Russia's aggressing in insert X country. So now we have to spend like mad. Or, did you hear about this new illness that's coming? Well, now we have to spend like mad. Or, did you see that, the oil reserves running out? Well, now we have to spend like mad. Insert ad infinitum. Until the corruption is dealt with, no other issue matters. Period. But here's the kicker. The Republican leadership doesn't want that because they too are benefactors to the corruption. The most important thing to the leadership of the Democrat and Republican Party is to maintain their hegemony on power. Mitch McConnell would rather see Hillary Clinton as president than Matt Gaetz. Chuck Schumer would have rather seen Jeb Bush as president than Tulsi Gabbard when she was a Democrat. Now, luckily for the Democrats' leadership, they got all of their ducks in a row. The biggest potential challenge to them was Bernie Sanders, who's now happily has a third lake house and goes along with everything they say. Sure, there'll be some ceremonial disagreements, but when it comes time to vote and the important stuff, they're there, baby. Endless money for the war regime? No problem. We'll sign off on it. Crucial votes on leadership positions going to the very people that we've complained about for decades? No problem. You got it. I'm sorry, what's that? Liberal toe? It's funny every time we leave blaming Democrats, even though Republicans won the House. I did a whole series on blame for the Republicans and why they lost the Senate. But certainly one of the people to blame for why one side loses is the other side. Like, for example, when the Steelers lost to the Ravens like 4 weeks ago, I blamed the Ravens. How outlandish. Right. The team that win could be blamed for winning. Idiot. But I have blamed Republicans a lot. Moron. Which is exactly what I'm doing now. Even the liberals' criticisms of me, they can't even get right. Shouldn't you just stick to you're a conspiracy theorist, blah, 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 blah? Shouldn't that be the line? I'm literally sitting here telling you, blaming, saying like, oh, Republicans are intentionally giving money to the primary people against what I believe in. Blaming Republicans. That's what I've been doing for the past 10, 15 minutes. And you're like, oh, it's funny to see you blame Democrats. What are you talking about? Now, what's going to happen? Well, here's my prediction. Again, I don't even know. So you'd blame the Ravens instead of the Steelers. Yeah, sometimes when a team wins, it's because they won, because they outperformed the other. And so if you're asserting blame as to why a loss occurred, one of the most obvious places to look is the competitors. They did a good job. Stupid. Idiot. You see what I'm saying, Tom? If Tom's someone who is more moderate left, Tom can actually have a coherent discussion with me about what he thinks I'm saying that's right or wrong. But 99% of the people that come on here and want to disagree with me are idiots like this. It's funny to see Republicans say, oh, the Democrats won. Did blame those Democrats. It's funny. I think that's funny. Not right now, cut sleeve, because I'll be ending in like 20 minutes. So, but you should come on soon. So if a loss occurs, do you look towards fixing the competitor's team or your own? Your own team. What do you think I've been talking about? Again, I'm sitting here talking about why that's good. That the first thing we need to do before you could do anything else is fix your own team. That we need to end corruption in our own team. It's good to get McCarthy out of this position of leadership. That's literally what I'm talking about. And your criticism is he's blaming the Democrats. Literally the opposite of what I'm doing. But you don't fix the other team. You say you can only fix yourself or your group, but you certainly pay attention. Man, what an idiot. So anyways, to continue to talk about the inner struggle in the Republican Party, which I think is a good thing, because we have to fix the Republican Party first and foremost before we can fix the general, which is exactly what I've been saying. What do I think will happen? I think at this point, my guess is that the Gates coalition is pretty well dug in against Kevin McCarthy. So I would think that what will happen will be, there will be one of two things. One, McCarthy will pay lip service in giving concessions to things that these Freedom Caucus people want. But ultimately, it won't make a difference. So they'll say, oh yeah, we'll have a Benghazi type committee and we'll put you guys in positions of leadership, but nothing will come of it. A lot of sound bites and strongly worded letters, and that'll be that. And when it comes time to putting teeth to it, Republican leadership will be lacking. Or they switch to someone like Steve Scalise. And Scalise will come in and say, oh, okay, yeah, I'll concede to that stuff. McCarthy was unwilling, but I will. And then it'll be business as usual. What it won't be is Donald. It's not going to be Jim Jordan. And let me defend the McCarthy defenders for a moment here. You know, Matt Gaetz is out there saying McCarthy lost 6 votes. Right, so did every other Republican. McCarthy's got the bulk of the votes. He's got like 200, and the people holding out are like 20. And so to expect McCarthy to just be like, well, that's it, I guess, Donald or Jim Jordan, it's not going to happen. I like Chip Roy. I'd be happy with Chip Roy. I'd be happy with Donald. I'd be happy with Jim Jordan. Donald's, I'm sorry. But McCarthy sucks for 2 reasons. One, he is just establishment Republican. I don't care. I hate them. Get them out. But second, even beyond that, he is a loser. He's been in charge. What have the results been? Time for fresh blood. Every person in position of leadership in the Republican Party should be removed. Ronna McDaniel at the RNC, McCarthy in the House, McConnell in the Senate. Get them out. Fresh blood. I would take establishment fresh blood before them. Even if it was people that had the same ideology. Go. You've lost. You suck. What's up, lecture fan? Thanks for the raid. I really appreciate it, man. Hope everything's going well. Ultimately, if I had to put my entire life savings, all $70 or whatever, if I had to put it up, my guess is that it will be McCarthy. That's my guess. And that he will come out and say, I've made these concessions, and I don't think those concessions will play out. It'll just be lip service. That's my guess. But McCarthy should be gone. Ronna McDaniel should be gone. And Mitch McConnell should be gone. They don't want to lose their position of power. They don't particularly like Donald Trump. They don't particularly like the Freedom Caucus. They don't. They don't want to lose power to them. And if that means working with Democrats openly or behind closed doors. Yeah, I saw that, Zygmunt. Yeah. That's what it'll be. Now, so this sounds depressing. But actually, what this shows is that conservatives and people that vote Republican have more hope for that party actually representing them than the Democrats will for decades to come. Because the Democrat politicians are not individuals, they are a monolith. Despite the bluster and the rebels and the rogues and the squad and the progressives and all the promises, when the rubber meets the road, they bow down and say, yes, sir. Whatever you say, sir. That's what Bernie does. That's what AOC does. They didn't challenge lead. They couldn't even force the vote on Medicare for all. Couldn't even do it. Had to toe the line. What the establishment is calling embarrassing, I call people standing up for their convictions and trying to represent their constituents. That's what I call it. I wish we saw more of it, not less. Would I see it as acceptable to work with Democrats on this issue, such as if Kevin McCarthy would work with concessions to Democrats so that some would vote for him? No, that's not acceptable. Not at all. So it's weird. There is pessimism in like, well, it's what's going to happen. Are the Democrats gonna hold out, or until eventually we get a Democrat speaker? Are they gonna make concessions to get a moderate speaker because there's nothing else that can be done? Maybe. That would sort of suck. But if the only way to avoid that is just you have to choose whoever we say, we the establishment, it's gonna be Kevin McCarthy or no one. You got to choose one of our establishment people or nothing. And shut your mouth. It's embarrassing if you speak up and try to represent your constituents and your principles and what you promised the people. You promised to be fiscally conservative. Sorry. You promised to fight corruption. Sorry. You can't do that. You can't do that. You just have to support us blindly. Like the Democrats do. That's what you have to do. If that's the price to pay to avoid, no, it's not worth it. Yeah, I mean, I don't see... Again, I hate to say this, but if you're someone that's like Jim Jordan, Byron Donalds, yeah, these are Freedom Caucus people, they'll be good. Like, I don't see what their path is. Do you think all of a sudden the 200 people supporting, the sort of establishment candidate, Kevin McCarthy, are going to be like, yeah, I think I'll go with the Freedom Caucus people. No, Scalise won't be any better. No, that's true. Scalise basically will be indistinguishable from McCarthy as far as I can see. Maybe slightly worse on immigration. Thank you, Scotty. I am often right, aren't I? Jim Jordan's taking money from Google. Yeah. Who would you pick? Ron Paul? Do we bring him out? He could be speaker, right? That's who I'd support. Ron Paul. Get him out. Yeah, it's probably too old. I don't know, Mabs. You tell me who is in the middle. Trump. Trump endorsed McCarthy. Talk about a guy who's losing it. I supported Trump. I volunteered for his campaign. I was offered a job, low level, to kind of head up my county going into the 2020 election. I've defended Trump vocally as well as anyone I know. I criticized him when he deserved to, which was, a decent amount of time. But when I say Trump supporter, I was and partially am a Trump supporter. Increasingly less every day. But how can you defend some of the decisions that he's making? How many times is he going to sit down with an interview from a member of the mainstream media that's just going to absolutely eviscerate him after the interview, taking things out of context or just spinning it in as negative a light? You can't get through his thick skull. Stop it. Stop it. He desperately wants to be liked by that crowd. Desperately. Kevin McCarthy? That's who you're putting your hat behind, Trump. Kevin McCarthy. I'm sure he'll have your back, dude. Thanks for the follow, Crispy. Holy cow. I mean, it's stupid. It's the exact same mentality, right? Because let me make Trump's argument for him. Well, if we don't get behind McCarthy and then something terrible will happen and some moderate Republicans, the swamp will come together with Democrats and they'll put someone that's a Democrat in charge there. And so now, we have to take McCarthy now. Sorry, we just have to do that. That's the exact same mentality why he didn't release the files that showed the coup attempt by him from the FBI. Why he stuck with Bill Barr. Why he stuck with Jeff Sessions before him. Why he appointed and stuck with people like John Bolton for too long. And Mattis. The exact same mentality. Well, we'll get to these things later, but right now it's time to compromise. It's time to compromise. When is the compromising done? When can we actually have the people we vote for do the things they promise, like be fiscally conservative? When do we get that? It's always just, it's another trillion. 10 years from now, we could get to it. And yes, you have morons on the left here. Like this tote guy. You have morons like him. They're like, I'm happy. Hopefully he's a corporatist Democrat, because that's what he's going to get. If he's a progressive, keep being happy, dude. You ain't ever going to get the shit you want. You'll get woke, language, but nothing of metric, nothing of measure. Here we go. Here's Tote. Like, this is literally, like, I love when people like leftists like this come on, because it makes my job so much easier. Let's see what he says. He says, quote, y'all voted for Trump and now you're reaping what you sow. Trump will defeat DeSantis in the primary and you will all abandon the whole Trump wasn't right. Love seeing y'all backpedal and try to go against Trump after loving him for 4 years. Now he's no longer viable because conservative leaders are telling you conservative voters to be good little lemmings and vote for DeSantis. So if you could make something intelligible out of that screed there, what this is basically saying is like, how dare you criticize someone you voted for? And again, it's in everything. When you see these lefties like this, it's in everything they do. It just oozes out of them. I'm a good little boy. I'm good. I do what I'm told. I think whatever they say, whatever Pelosi and Schumer say, whatever they say, whatever Biden says or Kamala says or Ron Klain says, I'll listen to anything. If they tell me to be for the war today, I will. And if they say be against it tomorrow, then I'll do that too. Whatever they say, I will never go against them. If I vote for them, I will always support them no matter what. I can never go against them. And you're just a ridiculous person if you vote for someone and then expect to hold their feet to the fire and expect them to follow through with their promises. That's terrible. I laugh at people like you that are like, oh, you voted for someone and then you didn't like what they did and you criticize them. Why can't you be like me and all the good people, the pro-democracy people that just acknowledge our voice doesn't matter? And once we vote for someone, we have to listen to whatever they say no matter what, and we can never criticize them. Why can't you be like that? That's real democracy. You're a threat to democracy. This is basically a coup. That's what this is. Yeah, it comes as surprises you that I voted for Trump in 2020 after excoriating him for many things, such as blowing out the budget, such as bombing Syria, such as embracing COVID lockdowns. Yep, I criticized him for those things and still voted for him in 2020. Why? Because he was better than the alternative at that point, and he still did a lot of things that were very good. And I still stand by that Trump did a lot of things that are very good. He outed the corruption, not because he was playing 4D chess, but because it was so evident that the people wanted to protect themselves, the establishment wanted to protect themselves from an outsider, that they worked lockstep with the intelligence agencies, the academia, the entertainment industry, social media, media companies to show how corrupt they are. And now we're seeing more of it every day when it comes to the Twitter files of how deep that corruption went. Now, Trump didn't do enough to fight that corruption, and I call him out for it. DeSantis seems on paper to have a lot of the same type of rhetoric as Trump, but in a more professional way. But there are problems. There's a lot of establishment type people that seem to be blocking DeSantis. That gives me cause to pause. I would say DeSantis isn't willing to go as scorched earth as maybe Trump would be. But to the counter, Trump had his chance and didn't. So yes, unlike you lemmings on the left, I actually weigh my options. If I vote for someone in one election, that doesn't mean that I always like them or will always vote for them in every election going forward. It's not what it means. I might vote for him again. Maybe not. Maybe I'll vote for DeSantis in the primary. Maybe I'll vote for someone else. I don't know. What I can do is say, this is what politicians are doing that I like. This is what they're doing that I don't. I could also look at the other side and I could say, here's Democrats doing things I like if they do it. I could do that. I'm not like you. That's to me the biggest story coming out of this. One, it's that there are principled conservatives willing to fight, even establishment people within their own party, which is good. But second, it is showing once more exactly who the opposition is. They are NPCs. They have no opinions of their own. They merely listen to whatever the left-wing influencer tells them to. That's it. That's all they have. They're unable to make their own mind up. They know their team's good, and it's always good, and whoever the captain of their team tells them to support, they support. And it doesn't matter. It's not that they're pro this or anti that. They're not that. They're simply playing a team game. That's it. And there are advantages to that. It makes your team stronger. It does. Or not stronger, but more likely to win. Now, it comes at the expense of the people voting for it. All cops are bastards. Defund the police. What's that? The very inner cities we told that would help are becoming worse and worse now? Oh, well. Lockdowns, mandates, spending bills. What's that? A massive transfer of wealth from the people we claim to support, the poor and working class, to the upper class? Oh, well. But hey, you're winning, man. You're winning. Of course, half the people you claim to care for can't afford to buy groceries, but you're winning, man. You're doing it. We got them. Oh, I mean, of course, aftershock. It's not they're making fun of us because we're not taking. No, of course they want to win at all cost. Of course, that's what all of this is about. Thanks, Grey Wolf, for the following. I really appreciate it. They think that we're going to be like, oh, they're making fun of us. I guess this is stupid. We'll shut up now. Fuck all that. Beyond that, I don't even have to address that. I don't have to address that. Stupid. I do not care that the person looking up for me as they are licking the boot, taking breaks from licking it, said, that's embarrassing that you're not licking this boot with me. I don't give a shit. I don't care if everyone in the world says that. I still don't care. I'm not licking your boot. Sorry. Not happening. You could think that it's embarrassing that we're not, but I'm still not going to do it. And your opinion as a bootlicker means nothing to me. Wins the Destiny debate whenever he stops running. I message him quite frequently. He don't respond. He knows. Message him about Drunken Debates this weekend. Hell, it won't even be on Twitch, and it won't even be a one-on-one. He could hide behind the other people on the panel. He won't do it. The only time he'll interact with me is when he could moderate a debate with me and Pisco, and then just basically be the second debater. But he don't want to do those one-on-one debates. He knows. Don't worry. Next week, Monday, I think we'll cover one of my debates I did with Destiny. Then you could judge for yourself. It's not that I'm not relevant. That's partially true. That would make sense if he doesn't know me. He knows me. He talks about me. Destiny did not kick my butt. On what debate? The Biden debate? Is that what you think? Destiny kicked your butt. That's what happened. He kicked your butt. Did he? Yeah, so Drunken Debates will be this Friday. So far, it will be me. Aftershock's here, so maybe he can confirm if there's more. We're trying to get it to be at maximum 6 people. So the idea is this. So, by the way, I'll end there when it comes to the speaker stuff. First off, tomorrow will be regular show around 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to try to cover all of the Twitter files. We're going to read through every thread if possible. That's the idea. Friday will be the return of Drunken Debates. Now, Drunken Debates, just to give you a little history, was a panel show. It was ran by John Burke. John Burke's a great guy, conservative, veteran, does a lot of stuff. He's been on TV. He was on, what was the name of the show he was on? He was on a TV show. So Drunken Debates, the idea behind it was the things that separate it from a different panel is there are less people on the panel. The topics are not known in advance except by the moderator. This is to encourage less of, did you read this study? Did you read this study? And to also encourage the type of person that will be involved in these discussions that's able to understand a breadth of issues. Because oftentimes what will happen is, like, let's say we're talking about vaccine mandates in Ukraine. You'll get someone that read like 2 articles about vaccine mandates, doesn't know shit about the Ukraine situation, and then you got a 3-hour debate where they're on there, and it's like, oh. So also the drunken aspect of it was you're supposed to be drinking a little. It's supposed to be more conversational type tone than sort of blood sportsy, but you could go back and forth with each other. That's American Grit. That was the show, yeah. I almost said True Grit, but that's the John Wayne movie. Anyways, Drunken Debates was on hiatus for a while. It's coming back, and it's now going to be John and my show. The idea will be there's 3 types of Drunken Debate shows that will happen. There will be type 1, which will be John moderates and I debate, and we get other debaters on. That will be 6-person maximum, and trying our best to get a diverse cast of people. The people that we're trying to bring on are people that are basically proven to be able to keep up in a space like this. So you don't have to be the best debater ever or anything like that, but we're trying not to just have like what you saw with like some Dylan Burns or Prime Case panel where there are people that come on that are just memeing and joking and shit, and they don't know what they're talking about, some 17. So we're trying to avoid that. So it should be people that are at least names that you've seen do debates and things like that. So up to 6 people. So this show will be, the first type of show will be John moderates, I debate. Maybe you get 2 other righties or moderates and then 3 lefties. Or maybe it's 2-on-2 or 5 people, etc. That's type 1. Type 2 will be I moderate, John debates. And we're going to try to alternate that every week. And then occasionally we'll do 2-on-2 debates where it's just John and I. And then we'll find a moderator that people can agree on and debate 2 people. So that is the sort of idea that we're looking at. So it'll be John and I show. What about a libertarian? What about a libertarian? I would assume that would usually fall on the right side of the ledger, even if though it's not technically, because in these spheres, you probably agree more with the right wingers than the left wingers. So, but yeah. So that will be Friday. Now, to the 83 people watching me on Twitch right now, and even the 19 on YouTube, Drunken Debates will not be streamed on Twitch. Period. It will be eventually a Rumble exclusive, or maybe comfy.stream and Rumble. The reason is, one, we want to get people to platforms that don't hate us. And that is Comfy and Rumble. I appreciate every dime that anyone sends me. I really do. It means a lot. But understand, if you donate money through YouTube or through Twitch to me, they're taking a large portion of that money, and it is going to the people that run these companies that hate me and hate you. And eventually, these sites will kick me off. And you'll wake up one day and say, haven't heard from robnoerr in a while, he must have stopped streaming. No, I was banned 2 months ago. So I need to do what I can now to drive people to platforms where I'm less likely to be banned. And so I implore you, sign up for Rumble right now. The other reason that it won't be streamed to Twitch is John Burke is banned from Twitch. Twitch's terms of service say that if you stream with someone who is banned on the platform, you yourself will face penalties and get banned. So in other words, this Friday at 8:30 Eastern time, PM, so far the people I know that are participating are me, John Burke will be moderating, Sonsol, and Dylan Burns. Sonsol and John Burke are banned from Twitch. If I were to stream on Twitch, I too would be banned from Twitch because I streamed with people that were banned. If Dylan Burns is streaming to Twitch Friday, he will be banned from Twitch if someone reports him. Fabian Liberty's going to be on as well. Okay. So it cannot be on Twitch. Period. Now, I probably will stream it to YouTube for these first couple times, but after a while, it's going to be only on Rumble and Comfy. I don't know if Dylan has a Rumble. I haven't talked to him about it. I talked to CTV slightly. I think he had some stuff going on in his life, but I talked to him and he's doing okay, it seems. Yeah, Hot Springs. Don't you understand? Tote has a life unlike you. Tote's life consists of doing exactly what the people in positions of power in the Democratic Party tell him to. That's his life. I have a life licking boots and doing whatever people tell me I need to do. Way to be, Tote. So, again, tomorrow's show will be at the normal places. You can find me on Rumble. You can find me on Twitter. I stream to Twitter as well. You can find me on Twitch. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on comfy.stream. I didn't lose the Destiny debate. The opinion of someone who's already told us that they never go against what the people on their side say means nothing to me. It means nothing. You might as well be the boxing manager, for a boxer who's like knocked down every round and being like, my guy still won on points. Don't worry though, we'll go back and we'll look at the Destiny debate. And if Destiny wants, he could come on with me. It's weird. If I lost these debates so much, you would think then that his audience is always asking for him. Why won't you go back to smacking down right-wingers? Why won't Destiny do it? What's with all the drama content? He knows of me. His audience, go to his channel and look at the videos of me. His audience liked when he interacted with me, even the ones that thought he won. Many of them didn't think he did so well. But nonetheless, so why won't he debate me? Surely he thinks just like you, right, Tote? He crushed me, right? That's what he thought. Easy win, right? Right? Well, I don't care. Destiny's got 10,000 people watching him. Right now, if I debated you and you absolutely crushed me, the majority of my audience is still going to say I won because they're my audience and they know me and they support me. Yes, I understand. The majority of totally concede. The majority of the people on Destiny's channel that watched Destiny debate me thought Destiny beat me. He didn't. He didn't do so hot. The majority of Steelers fans didn't think that was a hold when the Steelers lineman was called for a hold. True. Yeah, he got crushed. He knows it. No, I'm not in an echo chamber. That's the opposite of it. I'm pointing out that people in your echo chamber thought that I lost. That's what I'm pointing out. I am pointing out that the way this works, that's human nature, if you support someone and there's some sort of disagreement, that the majority of people will say, oh, my side won. My audience is far more objective, even though it is true that on average, you would have to really almost undoubtedly beat me to have the majority of my audience say that. Far more of my audience will be honest and has been in the past when they'll be like, Rob, I don't think you did so well there. I thought the other guy won. It happens. We'll go back and watch the debate. You could be here, Tote. You could be here. And you could say, no, and tell your friend Destiny to come too. As long as, Chuck Schumer tells you it's cool. I don't know what your boss says you're allowed to do or not. Andrew's fun to debate. I'm not in denial. I don't care. Again, we're just rehashing the point now. Right, Tilt. Right, and that's the other thing. And which is the Destiny attack. You have facts and then you stretch them out into conspiracy. Give me an example, Mojer. Go ahead. Give me an example of something that I had a few facts in my debate with Destiny and stretched out to a conspiracy. Go ahead, Mojer. Now Totes resorted to, I know you are, but so am I. I'm not in denial. You are in denial. What do you mean? Who said I didn't care? I never even said that. I said he didn't win the debate. The reason, and it's evident that he knows that because people said you should debate Rob more often. It was a fruitful conversation. Even the people that thought he won, but he doesn't want to do it because he knows. The guy that always wore sunglasses, me. What's this guy's name? He's going to tell me, Mojer's going to tell me how I had facts, but I stretched it out into a conspiracy. Go ahead. Give me the point. I'm not tripping over my words. You can tell me later. Go ahead. What I saw was Destiny said afterwards, and what his audience coped up was this. He said, and he knew that he didn't do as well as his audience thinks because as soon as I left, he's like, Rob, what he does is he's very good at it. He makes a point or something where he thinks he's winning, and then he if you get a point in him, he shifts to some other point, and his audience was like, yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. That's why it looks like Rob. Okay, we knew Rob didn't do good. That's what had happened, right? But you go back and you look, and over again, Destiny would say that to them. For example, we were talking about vaccines, right? And we were like vaccine hesitancy. And I was like, well, actually, Biden and Kamala were well out there before Trump or Trump supporters ever were questioning the vaccine, saying if it came to Trump, it wouldn't happen. And Destiny said, that wasn't Biden or Kamala. And then I showed like 4 quotes that showed it was. And his audience was like, well, Destiny won that point. He won that point. He won that point. And it went on and on and on and on. That's how it went. I would constantly cite something as a source, and Destiny would be like, well, the only thing that Destiny could claim one time that sort of went that way was when I said Kamala Harris said that she believed the multiple accusers of Joe Biden who said that he sexually assaulted or harassed them. And he said one of those survivors said that although she was uncomfortably sexually, she wouldn't call it sexual harassment. And so that was the big... Right, but by the legal standard, it would have still met the definition of sexual harassment. But that woman didn't feel, it was just sexual uncomfortability that Joe Biden offered to her. That's it. That's the one area that, fair enough, that woman did say that, totally concede. Okay, and? Mab says, you do that a lot, LOL. You're also stuck on this debate from months ago of being bad faith, saying he's avoiding you when he hasn't streamed politics in months. Sure, he streamed politics. That's your claim. So I just want to be clear. Mab's here saying Destiny has not streamed politics in months. If I went to his YouTube channel right now, I wouldn't find any political content from, say, the past 2 weeks. That's your claim. That's what we're going to claim here. For months, he hasn't been streaming politics. It's getting desperate now. I'm bringing it up because someone brought it up to me and said Destiny crushed me in the debate. He objectively didn't. I'm going to rewatch the debate because for the same reason I rewatched the Chud Logic debate, for the same reason I'm going to rewatch Dylan Burns' debate and a Bastiat debate, because they are issues that are relevant to today. So about over a year ago, we talked about Biden's presidency and made predictions on how things would look. So we're going to look at, we can go back and look at the Econoboy debate, which a lot of people thought, I'll say this, Econoboy did way better against me than Destiny did. Right. That's right. That's the debate, Mojo. That's the last debate I had with Destiny from a year ago. And it's titled, You Hate Our Country. See where I said that? What Destiny did was, and I even asked him at the end, I said, do you want the last word or not? He said, yeah, obviously you want the last word, which is true. It makes sense debate-wise. And what he did was his closing statements wasn't, my closing statements are like, here's the points I've won in this debate. And Destiny's closing statements are, and you do this when I debated in college, this is something you would do. You change the subject and give a sort of monologue. So he starts rambling on about, I remember freedom fries, and when the damn Republicans said, you hate this country if you're not for the Iraq war, and God damn it, we won't take it anymore. Right. What's that have anything to do with Biden administration? What? What's that have anything to do with the debate? Right. But you got the last word. CTV, yeah, we talked about him. In fact, Mabs' claim is Destiny hasn't done politics. He hasn't streamed politics a month. Literally, it was 2 months ago, I was on a Destiny stream where he moderated a debate between me and Bisco because he didn't want to do the debate. Instead, he was going to moderate, and then he just basically was a second debater in it. Mojer says, you talk fast. That's true. And I gish gallop. That's something that lefties say because they can't think of anything. It's like gish gallop, conspiracy theorist, fallacy. That's the shit they say when they don't have anything to say. You're rare, intelligent, conservative, but you did debate, take a couple of facts and stretch them into absurdity. Again, I guess that's your opinion. You can't say what they are, so great. Yeah, whataboutism. They say that a lot too. Yeah. I also think it's funny too that that's what Destiny fans. The problem with Rob is he talks a lot. He talks fast. What do you think Destiny does? And he gish gallops. Go look at when they say I gish gallop. Oftentimes this is what will happen. You know, I'll say Kamala Harris said that she believed the multiple accusers. You had the one woman that said that he penetrated her with her Tara Reid with his fingers. Then you had the woman that said he sifted his hair. They'll be like, well, that's multiple points. That's gish galloping. Those are multiple examples proving the same point. But anyways, I'll be honest. I like talking to Destiny because I actually think he's an intelligent person who makes coherent thoughts. So many of the people I talk to are absurd. I think Destiny has shit takes. But if I had to choose who I would want to talk to have a civil conversation with, I'd choose Destiny a million times over someone like Vosh. Easily. That doesn't mean he didn't get smacked around in that debate. He did. There have been interactions I've had with Destiny where I can admit that he got the better of me. One such was when we were talking about the GameStonks thing with GameStops and what was the name of the trading company, Robinhood. I didn't really understand how that worked. And Destiny, the way he explained it makes sense. But at the end of the conversation, Destiny still fucked up, right? Because he was acting like, shutting down Robinhood wasn't going to screw the little guy. Well, of course, because he has to concede. Even if the way you discuss Robinhood working is true, which I have no reason to disbelieve, the wealthy hedge fund manager ain't using is that what it was called? That app they ain't using that to trade. So it's shutting down. The only people it affected were regular people, poor and working class. Yeah, Vosh is terrible bad faith, yeah. I've done some shitty things on Hippy Dippy, I'll be honest. Trans positive Rob was definitely sabotaging that one panel. And it was funny because people were like pissed that Dylan kicked me off. He should have kicked me off like 20 minutes earlier. He should have. I'm not too proud to admit that. I was definitely in there with an agenda. Fuck that censorious trans shit. Tired of it. But people were mad at Dylan for that. Dylan didn't do anything wrong. It was he absolutely should have been. I still think it's funny. Poor CDB, he was like on there after like, Dylan, don't ban Rob. I'm like, dude, don't do it. Don't stick up for me. It's like, but I couldn't stop the joke. Right? Stopping the joke was not an option at that point. So we were at loggerheads. Yeah, it's possible to have a deep dive debate on vaccines. Certainly it would be. I've tried. I talked to someone named Ruminate. I talked to someone named Ellen DeGenerate. I talked to Sonsel. Basically everyone, Ruminate quit the debate and admit he got crushed. Sonsel was like, I need to read up on this more. I talked to poly people. That was a joke. But they didn't read up enough. Now, I'm not going to claim that my reading of this was very limited. Because I'm not against the vaccine. I don't care. You can take the vaccine. I think that people should get the best available information. I think that ethically doctors should tell people, the cost-benefit analysis of any medication, including especially a new vaccine in this climate. I think the censorship of people that had counterpoints of views led by our government and social media companies is a scandal that's epic. But if you are comfortable taking the vaccine, I don't have a problem with it. And who knows, maybe that was the right choice. My argument was always against the mandate. And the way in which that it was most effective for me to prove the mandate was wrong was to show that the mandate encompassed populations that it seemed the evidence strongly suggested should not be being forced to take this. And the population I focused on were people with previous COVID infections with some form of natural immunity, who ended up being more protected than the vaccinated. And even if it's true, and I only used articles that were pro-vaccine and studies that were pro-vaccine, and those articles did say it was very rare to have serious side effects, but it was less rare than having serious cases of COVID once already had contracted the illness. And so forcing someone to take a medication that on average would lead to less desirable medical outcomes is monstrous. No comment, chick still out there, yeah. I would debate lefties on the vaccine. Now, again, I'm not reading. A lot of people are reading stuff like I debated Hunter Avalon on this stuff, and people were criticizing me. Why didn't you talk about the VAERS database? VAERS is self-reporting. And so an easy way out of that. Now, is it true that with this mass amount of self-reporting, it probably is likely, even if 80% of it's erroneous, that it's still a massive increase? Yeah. But it's easy. You're not going to convince anyone with that argument. I tried to stick to, if I could prove that you're forcing these medications onto people and making their lives hell, admittedly, that was what the Biden administration was doing, making their lives hell because they weren't vaccinated, forcing them to get tested every week or having passports to be able to go out and grocery shop or being public places. And you couldn't go with all the lockdown shit, just insane, right? And if I could prove that you're doing that based on to populations that it's a bad decision to do this, that's the debate. And then hopefully people take it from there. Hopefully the lefties that are watching are like, holy shit. Now, most of them won't do that, but that's the best chance. You can't just you walk through the door. If you just kick it off and you're like, and here's Robert Malone saying, 17,000 blood clots, in this study here. They're going to be like, that study's bullshit, and this guy was kicked off Twitter, and here's a counter study that says X, So you focus with a scalpel the most specific type of argument you can regarding the data, which is what I try to do. I'm not equipped in my reading right now to, if the debate was average 75-year-old person, should they take the vaccine or not? I don't know. I have no clue. I don't know what the data says. I know what it says about kids. I know what it says about people with previous infection, but I couldn't tell you. And I'm certainly not going to make fun of you if you took the vaccine. I'm not going to make fun of you if you didn't. That's your decision. I'm just against you being forced to do so. That's it. So, all right. Anyways, I do like the deep dive on the topic. That's why I enjoyed my conversation with Adam and Sitch. 5 hours on FBI corruption. No one ever wants to talk to me about that stuff. It didn't go so well because Adam decided to be a dick the whole time and basically, you know, like so many people that just have a trust of authority, unless you get like a signed statement like, yes, we are corrupt, they're never going to believe it. That's okay. So I'll leave you with this. Please go to my Rumble page. We'll get you to comfy.stream eventually too. Please go to my Rumble page. All right? Type. You should be able to find it at this link. Please, please go there. I'm going to find out how to get the chat from Rumble incorporated onto my streams. It'll probably be on the left side there. Rumble's free. I do all of my live streams there. If you want to make sure that you're getting every single live stream I'm doing, follow me on Rumble. It means one follow on Rumble for me means more than 20 followers on Twitch or YouTube. It really does mean that much because inevitably I will be kicked off of these platforms. And much of the content that I want to do, not because it's bigoted or because it's, oh my God, Rob's saying things on Rumble he could never say on YouTube and Twitch. There'll be some of that you could see surrounding COVID or, you know, things of that nature. But mostly because you run afoul of these absurd terms of services just because you're not towing the line completely. Oh, what's that, Rob? You were on a panel and you didn't know that the person on the bottom left was suspended from Twitch. Sorry, you're suspended from Twitch. You know, so please consider following me on Rumble. That's where Drunken Debates will be this Friday at 8:30. It'll be about 2 hours. Each topic will be about a half an hour. Thanks, Stephen. I really appreciate it. I know it's, and let me be clear here. I'm going to 11:30, so I got 7 minutes. Let me be clear. I'm driving down the road. I'm either listening to the radio or I have YouTube on, and it's something that I don't have to watch. Like, I've been really into these videos that's like naval expert looks at 8 scenes from a movie and rates how realistic they are, like stuff like that. Or I like listening to people doing chess commentary and chess videos and stuff like that. Stuff I don't necessarily have to be looking at the screen, but I can just listen and it's like noise in the background that keeps me sort of entertained. That's YouTube. Who am I to sit here and complain about, you know, YouTube and Google that owns them manipulating elections to help Democrats win and all this, and yet I'm using their product? I am. It's true. It's convenient. If I'm going to watch a debate on the Crucible, I'm watching it on YouTube. The technology's super convenient. It's smooth. It's streamlined. It's streamlined as a viewer. It's streamlined as a creator. It is. It's easier for me to do a live stream on YouTube than Rumble or Comfy. My chess.com rating's terrible. At one point I was like 1100 in like rapid, but I play Blitz 5 minutes in 5 minute or 5 second increments, and I think my rating's like a 830 or something. It's terrible. I'm a little better if I have time to sit there and think, but I suck. So I get it. When a creator says, follow me on this other platform, baseline 80% of people are going to be like, I like Twitch. I like YouTube. I'm not going to go over to that other place. And even if I do, I still got my Twitch account. I'll just watch on Twitch. I understand it. Even right now, if you're on Rumble right now, there could be someone on the chat in Rumble being like, dude, answer my question. I can't see your chat. because the technology doesn't exist on Restream to allow me to incorporate the Rumble chat right now in my Restream chat. So I got to figure out how to make that work. So I get it. It's a big ask. When you hear, and you probably hear people like me all the time, follow me on this site, follow me on this site. And it's like, how many different sites are there? 3 weeks from now, it'll be like, follow me on DLive, follow me on Odyssey. I get it. It sucks. I do. But, I think that we, as people that don't like the censorship and don't like the sort of authoritarianism that comes with, the people that run places like Twitch or YouTube, we need to start supporting people on platforms that are different. We need to, as a creator, I need to be going to those places. As a viewer, I need to be going to those places. So, I think Rumble has the most potential right now, too. Odyssey, I was doing for a while. I had a lot of problems technically. BitChute, I had problems technically. DLive had promise until January 6th happened, and they decided to be like, you can't, basically became YouTube Lite. You couldn't talk about anything, so... it's like DuckDuckGo. Like, people went to you because they felt that, like, not just privacy, but they thought that algorithm manipulation was too pro-establishment and corporate. And so what's the CEO of DuckDuckGo do? He comes out and is like, by the way, we're censoring content about Ukraine and blah, 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 too. It's like, well, that's the majority of your user base, you morons. So it's like, what good is it? What good's DLive if, Hey, 2 people started following me on Rumble. Mojo, thank you. And I didn't know who the other was. Just thank you. I see it on my phone. So yeah, go to Rumble. I'm telling you, I'm going to be on Drunken Debates Friday. I'm going to have like 7 people watching because it's going to be on Rumble. And it's funny because I think that's content that my audience will like. But you'll forget. Oh yeah, I'll go over to, because you didn't sign up today or tomorrow. So you'll forget. And then it'll be like, oh yeah. Then when you hear me and then Monday, I'll be doing a debate review, and that'll be on Rumble. And then when you hear from me finally Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever, you'll be like, oh yeah, you did say that. That is where you were streaming. Forgot about that. But just letting you know. There are options right now, which is good. So, but yeah. All right. Well, speaking of Twitch, let's find someone to raid on Twitch, and then I'm going to get out of here. So tomorrow night, 9 p.m., tune in for a look at the Twitter files. And then 8:30, a little earlier, 8:30 on Rumble. On Friday, will be Drunken Debates. So, oh boy, let's do Aircraft Sparky. He's a good guy. Oh, Mojo says, I'm a Marxist. I disagree with you all the time. That's okay. I'll probably make fun of you and stuff, but I don't mean anything by it. Who was the guy who was picking on Tote? You have to understand, like, many of my friends in real life I met through the debate community that are the lefty of the lefties. They really are. And so I could trust a Marxist that's open more than, Mitt Romney, who claims that he ideologically agrees with me. He's a piece of garbage. So I'm not going to freak out over that. Why are they taking forever to confirm the speaker? Go back and watch the second half of my show tonight. Go to about the 1 hour, 10-minute mark, and then you can get your answer. Yeah. Well, even with Tote, Tote didn't say anything. I was giving Tote more shit than maybe I should have, though maybe not. But he represented sort of a mentality that I see that's prevalent, that deserves to be mocked. Having said that, as an individual, whoever Tote is, I don't wish any ill to them. I hope his life's great. I hope he's laughing right now, eating caviar out of, what the hell is that car Andrew Tate had? A Bugatti? Or I hope he's sitting in a Bugatti right now. Good for him. I don't care. So, all right, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. I will see you all tomorrow evening. Please, 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 please consider following me on Rumble. The link's there, so I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and as always, have a good one.
We will spade and wheel in Utah until there is nothing left.
Now do my ass.